Okay, so Terry, back to you.
Okay, what you should be seeing now is the slide, the beginning of the show table. Is that what people are seeing?
That's what I'm seeing,
Hello?
yeah.
Yep.
Oh, okay. So I guess we can get started. Thank you, Inga. That was actually very good information. Another thing that you could do if your plants are growing in one direction, if you rotate them, then the leaf will stay a little flatter, but don't rotate them once you have buds starting on a flower stem, especially with Phalaenopsis, because that'll really mess up the flowers. So today we have not quite as many as we had the previous couple of months, but certainly we have a lot of quality on the show table. So we had to judge them as usual, and so now we'll get going. All right. So the Cattleya Alliance, this seems to be the time for Cattleyas, and we got some real beauties this time. Cattleya Ludmaniana horticultural form rubra. This is grown by Joe DiCiomo. Ludmaniana is usually a pale pink and sort of nice light pink all over, but this one is a form that has a very dark lip, and therefore it would be very useful in breeding to get more color in the lip. But then the sepals, you can see, are quite narrow and rolled, and this is actually something that you'd have to then breed out of the progeny. This is something interesting. Elena got this as two pseudobulbs that were leafless and rootless and sunburnt, and she did a resurrection. Now, I always say I can't do resurrections, but obviously Elena did. And this is a beautiful thing. And actually, I like the way that this was photographed. It almost looks like a botanical drawing, doesn't it? It's Cyclia navaroi. Goranthe Orientiaca used to be called a Cattleya. Now, this is one of the Cattleyas that in nature, the flowers never open very much, and they tend to self-pollinate. But selection and breeding over several generations has produced flowers that actually open up, and so they don't pollinate themselves even before showing themselves. This was grown by Michael Huang, and it summers outdoors and winters on the southeast facing windowsill. But this is where we get a lot of the strong oranges in the Cattleyas that we see, and the heads of flowers. Goranthe skinneri, Evan Richards summers on the rooftop shade house, see, making use of a rooftop, and then spends the winters in a south window. This can get to be quite a big plant, so he must have a good sized window. This is a cute little miniature species, Leptodes folitinicole. The one that most of us know is the Leptodes bicolor, which is pink and white, which is white sepals and petals and a pink lip. This species actually is pink all over, and then Catherine says it actually fades to a light pink, but when it opens, it's quite a dark pink. But this is a plant that's very small, and the flowers are almost as big as the plant itself. Albert St. Pierre grew this stunning Cattleya, Gloriosa May, Brassicatleya. You can see the Brassavola in the background. The Morning Glory is definitely a primary cross with Nodosa. So you see the very large flared lip and a lot of spots. A lot of times you'll get spotting in the lip, but this one is solid, and so makes it even more pretty. And I bet it's really fragrant, especially at night. Another Nodosa cross. This is with Percivaliana. Now, Percivaliana is a full Cattleya, so you can see the influence of the Nodosa. That is very star-shaped, very narrow sepals and petals, and that's what's come through here. But it looks like it's producing lots of flowers on a very compact plant and very short pseudobulbs, which is more like the Nodosa. And you get the funnel-shaped lip with the spots on the lip. Very nice, and probably also fragrant. This is a Cattleya that Albert has grown, it's flowered, is beautiful color, probably fragrant from the look of it. And it's one that's, I guess, lost its tag, but some things are nice to grow even though they don't have their official names. This I thought was very interesting. Cattleya Brazilian Jewel Cerulea. This is a Walkeriana binobalor cross. It's actually a primary cross grown by Elena. And she says that has a strong and very sophisticated fragrance. I wonder what is meant by sophisticated. I've heard sweet, I've heard foul, I've heard citrusy, cherry, whatever, but this is sophisticated. So we have a new descriptor for fragrance. Nicely done, compact plants, and you can see that this also is doing what Walkeriana often does. It's blooming on a growth that is not actually a full growth. It's a sort of a subgrowth with flowers, and then it'll put out a new growth. That's something that is noted for Walkeriana, and of course, its fragrance. This is gorgeous. Wilson Ing says that these are 8 inches apart. Now, Cattleyas were bred for large and round and full for the corsage trade, and the Mildred Rives and Shelley Compton are both white with colored lips and were probably originally bred for that. Can you imagine wearing this as a corsage, 8 inches across? You have 2 of those, and you don't really need a top for that dress, do you? The Cattleya Crown Fox Sweetheart Paradise, another Walkeriana cross. The fragrant, you have the Walkeriana lip that has a spade at the tip and quite open with the columns exposed. Beautiful coloring, grown by Sinya under LED lights and summers outside. It's so obviously a very strong plant, beautifully staked. A gorgeous slip. The Schroederei by Sib. Now this is what by cross Sib means is that the original cross was Bella with Maggie Raphael. So it produced probably white flowers. And what they did was take 2 of the best of the Schroederei and cross them. So by doing that, what they do is actually do a remix of the genes, and you can get some different things happening. So it's not actually, it's still called Schroederei because that's all there is in there, but the mix of genes is quite different, so the results could be quite different from the original plants. Cattleya Sonia Flares, Purple Splendor by Taidia. And it looks like an SVO plant. Eugene McSweeney grew this. It's the large flowers, but he's disappointed that the petals, even though they're quite wide, they don't quite meet, and that's probably because of the stance of the petals. But it has a gorgeous lip, and the color is so fantastic. It's still worth growing. Now, another one of Albert's plants, this is an epidendron, one of the reed stem epidendrons that produce a head of flowers, and they keep flowering and flowering, and you can see there's still buds coming. Now, in terms of, because our show table is actually photographs, it's also important to take a look at our photographs and see how they could be made better. In this case, we can see the nice pink flowers, but if this had been photographed from above to show that whole whirl of flowers, we could have seen them much better, and they would have been much more impressive. So consider, when you look at your plant for photography, consider the best face forward. This is beautiful, I think. Lilia Cattleya Bedford Aubrey Bishop, and so like Lilia Cattleya and Nakagi cross, which is a big white with pumila. And so these flowers are very thick, the plants are small and probably fragrant. Anna grows this outside in the summer and winters in the south window with lights. Oftentimes, even in the south window in wintertime here, we need to supplement the light. This, I think, is really, really neat. These, they used to be called Schomburgkias, now they're called Miramicalis, and they have the nice thing about them is that they have quite long spikes. So growing them under lights, you have to be careful and make sure you take them out before the spike hits the lights. But they produce beautiful heads of flowers. Oftentimes the sepals and petals are curly, and the markings on the lips are just fantastic. And as Colette says, they're fragrant. But you do need to have enough space for those spikes to develop. Now, this is absolutely gorgeous. Eugene's says good shape, petals and lip, great color, compact plant, definitely a keeper. Definitely a keeper. One of the parents is an FCC, which means that it got a first class certificate, and so that has to be really, really special. The Elaine Taylor is actually a bit more frilled. So the other parent has actually flattened the petals out. So the result is a gorgeous, gorgeous flower. I hope we get to see this at judging in not too far future. And look at the roots. That's why it's producing such beautiful flowers, and very, very compact. Now, this is a cross, Ringcatlanthi Chief Sweet Orange with Circle of Life. The Circle of Life is a very round flower, and actually the plant is usually fairly small. Obviously, in this case, the plant is taken over after the other parent, a much taller plant, but you still get that really, really nice orange color. You probably will produce 2 or 3 flowers as the plant gets stronger. Ringcatlanthi Fantasy Love by Fordyce Fancy and by Love Sound. This is a cross. There probably needs to be another bracket in here someplace, because you can't have 3 parents. You have one parent goes with another parent. So, but still, this is a very pretty flower. Nice pink, nice flares on the petals, very well, nicely done, and lots of a nice head of flowers, nicely presented. Ken Henry and Carol Wilson grew this plant, and they mentioned the fact that it is a small, lot of color for a small plant, and I agree. Look at this, only 3 growths, and they've got 1, 2, 3, 4 flowers, so good-sized flowers, nice and bright. Definitely something that's well worth growing. And this is another one of the SVO plants. Catlianthe Dichomo Caesar, Little Magician with Tropical Aurora. This is one of Joe DiCiomo's plants. It's and he says it was named after a cousin who lives in Brazil. But it's very nice concolor. Concolor means all the same color all over. Beautiful flower and very nice presentation. This is one that we've seen before. This is grown by Carolyn Bishop, and as she says, it's a very reliable performer. It blooms on a regular basis. Every new growth gives you flowers, and usually a bunch of flowers. And see, this is what she's done here. She's photographed the plant from above, so the flowers that are facing up, we get to see straight on. Nicely done. This is something that's really quite pretty, I think. I like the comment here by Nick Cox. He wasn't sure about why he liked it because it's only flowering for the first time. I guess he'll like it better when it flowers the second time. But Trick or Treat is a plant that actually produces lots of stellate flowers, star-shaped flowers, and really nice color. And Fuchs Orange Nugget is again the same kind of breeding. It has the Aurantiaca in the background. And as this plant gets stronger and more growths, it'll produce a bigger head of flowers. And so I think with every flowering, you're going to like it better, Nick. This is an oldie, the Rhyncholaliocattleya Carousel Crimson Triumph. Now it's got an FCC. Now it's a while since it got the FCC, and also you have to remember that culture is a large part of every award. So the better a plant is grown, the fuller the flower, the better the presentation. This is an older FCC, so the petals maybe aren't quite as full as we saw with the Elaine Taylor cross, but it's still a very beautiful thing. A beautiful, huge flowers, and Sylvia says that she showed it in January, so it must have more than one blooming on it. So blooming growth on it. So with these big cattleyas, of course, each growth only blooms once, but if you get those growths coming up at different times, then you get multiple flowerings per year. Rhyncholalia Cattleya Hinsing Dream, Violet Queen, Love Castle with Birthday Dream. Again, looks like a small pot with lots of flowers, grown by Sylvie Porter. And this is just the first bloom. Now, it looked like it took a few years to get to the bloom, but there is, I think, at least 2 inflorescences here, and they have 2 and 3 flowers. So that's really well done. This is really pretty, the contrast of the very, very dark lip. Colette says this one smells of Easter lilies. And it is getting to be a specimen. Hinsing Sunbeam, Juliet's, obviously a Mariclone because it has a clonal name on it, but very pretty thing. And I imagine it's right in time for Easter, which is today. Okay, now we go to the Vanda Alliance. Angrica Magdalena, Yvain McLennan grew this. She says it's a very slow grower. Yes, we've grown this one too. It is a very, very slow grower, but when it comes out with these flowers, they're just so pristine. They look like they're made out of porcelain, and they're so white. Beautiful species from Madagascar, and of course it's fragrant at night, and probably pollinated by moths. This is a Phalaenopsis. It almost looks like one of those, again, one of those pictures from the botanicals. This is a particular clone of the Cornucervi, the Catalabe, and it has this gorgeous red color. And again, you can see it has these interesting inflorescences that are actually flattened, and the buds come out at each of these little nodes, and these stems will flower for years and years. And the nice thing about this particular form of Cornucervi, it passes on this color. It's very dominant for this color when it's used as a hybrid. This I thought was very interesting. Inga and Peter sent this picture in, and because it's the only Vanda that likes our Vanda greenhouse. I'm not sure what that means, but it certainly is one of the very few Vandas that are well, not the few Vandas, but one of the Vandas that are really highly fragrant. It has the 3 colors, the white and pink and purple, I guess, are the colors. It does get to be very large. I remember one at a show in Ottawa, and I think it must have been 4 or 5 feet across, and it was taller than I was. But they tend to branch and produce lots and lots of flowers. And when you have that many flowers, boy, that fragrance is really, really strong. This is another thing that's really interesting. Now, when they reshuffled the Vandas, they made every Ascasendas Vandas and Euphonedias Vandas, but they took out some Vandas that were Vandas already. So this is what we used to call the terete leaf Vandas. Is you can see the leaves are more like pencils than flat, like most of the ones that we see, and they crossed this with, well, it would be Vanda curvifolia, which used to be an Ascasenda, and they got these beautiful orange flowers. Now, curvifolia is very dominant for color because the other Vanda or the And the other parent has nothing but pinks and sort of browns colors, so the orange is really taken over. But it's 5 feet tall. Definitely not a candidate for under lights, but Albert, I think, has a big greenhouse, so he has room for it. And these Vandas, the terete Vandas, what we used to call terete Vandas, they actually are much warmer growing than the regular Vandas. They will not take any cold at all. And to bloom them, you need a lot of light. So this is very well done. Sylvia grew this Phalaenopsis that she got as a Christmas present 4 years ago now, and it's still flowering beautifully. Nice arrangement, which means that she didn't turn the plant when the buds were coming out. Beautiful pictures. It's just very pleasant. Anoname. Now this, Sylvia says that this was originally, it had purple flowers. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but you all know that there are some desecrators of our Phalaenopsis that are actually dyeing them. So you can get them in the grocery store in fluorescent greens and blues and purples and all weird colors. And then when they rebloom, they bloom pink or white like they're supposed to. This is what we call a harlequin Phalaenopsis because it has these very dark color splotches. Usually, quite often, these splotches are sort of random all over the flowers. So you can see a little bit of here and maybe here. But this one is particularly nice because it has the color concentrated around the center, and the lips are all very similar. So this is a very, very pretty Phalaenopsis, and Zhang Peng grows this because it produces the nice halo and because it has lots of flowers. Now, this is another one of Sylvia's that was a gift. Again, very long-lasting flowers. Obviously, one that no longer has a name, but you can see that it is well-grown, lots of roots, lots of leaves, and Phalaenopsis that have yellow in the background or tend to be even more long-lasting than your things like your pinks and your whites. But and this is what gets people into orchids. They see these beautiful flowers that last and last and last, and once they rebloom them, they think, oh, all orchids do this. Well, you all know that not all orchids last as long as the Phalaenopsis. Now this, I think, is gorgeous. Leslie describes it as snake skin that blooms all summer. I'm not sure why snake skin, because I guess because it looks like it's scaled, and snakes have a scaly skin, but they are. This is a gorgeous flower, and as he says, they last a long time. Now, this one, I think we saw 3 months ago, and it's still in bloom. The Zinnia grew this, and you can see that not only is it still in bloom, but it has twice as many flowers. And you can see why it's doing that, because look at the number of leaves. And that the more leaves, the more roots, the stronger the plant, the more flowers. And I bet the scent from this one is just gorgeous. Doesn't it look like sunshine in this picture? This is a relatively new cross. It's the first time I've ever seen it. Equestris with Tetrapsis. Equestris is a miniature that blooms sequentially. So this actually should continue blooming on the stem. I'm not sure if it will or not, but it has that potential. And Zhang really likes the speckling of the pink on the white. I think that's really, really pretty. And the solid Equestris lip is really nice. Now, I have a thing about staking. And this poor little plant does not need the scaffolding. Like this stick, I guess maybe you're thinking that this inflorescence is going to continue elongating and you're going to have to stake it further. But a much finer wire would have made it much more delicate, and we could appreciate the flowers more. This is gorgeous. The scaffolding kind of detracts here. So remember, if you're staking a plant, make sure that the stake is appropriate for the stake that you're staking that you're doing. In this case, a florist wire would probably be more than enough to keep these flowers up. This is a gorgeous thing. Now, this is Phalaenopsis little one, Hycoclila by Japonica. Now, the Hycoclila used to be a Vanda, and the Japonica used to be what's the Japonica? What's the Japonica?
Sideria.
Sideria, yes, Sideria. Sorry, just a second previous. Sideria, I did it again. And Sideria japonica. So this one's really gotten, this can't be a straight Phalaenopsis. I think this is still a Vanda. So I think it's a Vandopsis is what it is now. But this is really interesting because these flowers are very much like a good representation of both the parents, and they're quite fragrant. They're very thick, and they will grow under a lot of light. I know that I tried to grow this one, and I don't think I was giving it enough light, and it just didn't do all that well for me. But very nicely done, Colette. And I would think it would still be fragrant. Now, you can see that she's growing it in a very open mix because that's what the Vanda would require. Minimart. This is a cross that's been around for quite a while, and every time it reappears, everybody is crazy about it. It has been grown to fairly good-sized plants, but it eventually, I guess something happens to them. I know mine grew for a while, and then after a while, it just seemed to peter out. But it's a delightful plant. Doesn't get much bigger than about 5 or 6 inches across, and produces lots and lots of these flowers. And it's just pretty spotted and lovely to look at. Now, this is one of Elena's beautiful plants. Look at the size of the spots on there, and again, you've got that brilliant yellow with the pink going over it, and makes it look red. And I bet it's fragrant too. And you can see that it keeps flowering and flowering. A very healthy looking plant, roots coming out, and the roots, the flowers would last a very long time, and each of these little nodes would be a flower, and it has another flower stem coming. Beautiful, beautiful thing. Thick, thick, thick. Now this is gorgeous. I have a feeling that we may have seen this one or something similar, I think a month ago from Joe, where there was only a few flowers open and lots of buds. It looks so much better with all the flowers out. It's really beautiful. And you know what would make it look even better? A dark background. Joe, get yourself a piece of poster board or something to put behind those flowers, and then they'll just pop out of the black background and really, really look super. Well done. Okay, another one of the more modern hybrids. This is interesting. Now, okay, so what we're showing here, Tetrapsis is the one that is the species that has the flowers that can be different. Each one can be different because the spotting on the color comes out in different places on each flower. So in this particular cross, this dragon tree eagle is a red, orange, very thick flower that's used a lot in breeding these days. And crossing it with the Tetrapsis, what it's done is sort of segregated color into different places. So you can see here, and you look in, well, it's, nice orange flowers. But if you look closer at the flowers, you can see that some of them are showing the characteristics from the Tetrapsis, where the red color is concentrated in certain parts of the flower. Violet Charm, Violacia by Marii. This is a primary hybrid. Sylvie says this is the best smelling orchid ever. All right, so we've had different descriptors of fragrance. I wonder what the best ever smelling orchid smells like. Nicely done. The Violacea always is very strongly scented. Maria doesn't have a lot of scent, but I guess the two together really make it special. This is a gorgeous picture. Colette is obviously has an eye for photography. All of her pictures are gorgeous. This is interesting in it that it's a white flower, but it has green in the center and some red and yellow, so it makes it really very interesting. Beautifully staked, nicely arranged, but I really like that green cast in the center. Eupan fireworks, another plant that's well grown. You can see when there's lots of leaves, there's lots of stems, and the cascades. Again, this is what you get when you don't move your plant, or don't turn your plant from the light when the buds are developing. This is an unusual Phalaenopsis in that it actually has three petals. We talked before about peloric flowers where the petals try to be lips. Well, this lip is trying to be a petal. So something different that happens. Some people like them, some people don't, but it certainly does produce a spectacular arrangement or a spectacular display when you have this many of them. Eupan polar bear. This is one of our white, as far as I know, this is a pure white Phalaenopsis. The Eupan polar bear, obviously named for a polar bear. Signat has grown this, and this is the second side spike from the original spike, and still she's getting all of these flowers. I think here we've gotten a bit of yellow light or a yellow filter in the photograph, so it looks like there's some yellow, but it actually I think should be pure white. This I thought was really interesting. It's something different too. This is a Rhynchonopsis dragon charmy. So it's the Phalaenopsis Japonica, which is the Sedera japonica that we saw before as a parent. And I think that must be what gives it all this spotting, because the Gigantea is usually either solid color or sort of really blotchy color. So the Japonica has broken up the color into these spots, so it looks like freckles. Really, really pretty, and I bet really fragrant, because both the parents are fragrant. And then we have a regular sort of Vanda, this another one of Albert's plants. Of course, it's the color that he likes, and it is an unusual color in orchids, the blue tones. There's a bunch of Miraclones that are Robert's delight, and they can be anything from this color to almost black. And some of them have even larger flowers, darker flowers, fuller flowers, but you know, if you've got, you would have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out, and I think there's at least 5 or 6 buds here. Obviously, Albert is growing things with a lot of light and getting the flowers that come with that light. Okay, your slippers. This is what we talked about that Dave was talking about. And there are some pretty, whoops, I don't want to skip that one. These are Cypripediums formosanum. This is Greg Warner's, and he says that he actually grows it in a pot in regular soil, keeps it in the winter in the garage, and then in the shady spot. These leaves are so gorgeous. I've grown these, and there's nothing like these leaves. They look like they've been cut out of like pleated crepe paper, and then fanned out. They're just absolutely gorgeous. And look at the number of growths here. This is very nicely done. Another one of Greg's plants. This is Henryi. This is a miniature, if I'm not mistaken. So it doesn't get very big, but again, he grows it in a pot, and then in the summer it spends in a shady spot to mature. But this is a multifloral and a miniature. It really is pretty, and the little flowers, it's really worth growing. And we're going to see, I think, more on these and how to grow them next month when Sean is here. He's going to what he's going to do is take us through the cycle of growing these. So from the spring when they are coming up or you plant them, to the summer, to the winter, and what they need. So for next year, maybe more of us will have these to bring in to show for the show table. Paphiopedilum vollatulum. Now, this is well photographed. Remember Dave said that these have very short stems and they tend to nod. And so when you look at them, oftentimes you just see the sort of the top and back of the flower. But when you put the pot at the right angle and face the camera right at it, it looks right in the face and it looks gorgeous. This is interesting. Leslie always has the unusual forms of the different species. This is Leukocyleum forma alba. So Leukocyleum is spotted very much like the vollatulum, only it usually has a white pouch, but this one doesn't have any spots anywhere, and it really does look like a pure white ball, almost like porcelain. And you notice that there's little marks on the flowers. When you have white flowers, it is so hard to keep them pristine because every little mark shows. If it's a red flower and you get a little bit of a bang on it or something, it just sort of looks a little bit darker. But on a white flower, it really shows up. But still, this is magnificent. Beautiful photograph. Inga and Peter grew this Don Wember, as they say. Usually this is sequential flowering, so you only usually have one flower at a time. But if you're really lucky, then the one doesn't fall off before the other opens, and then you get this beautiful arrangement. And probably if they went back in the next day, they would have only been flowering, had one to photograph. But beautiful thing, and always, every Don Wember I've ever seen is gorgeous. Untitled Alliance. Now, I thought this was very interesting. This amethyst gem is Phalaenopsis, which means it's a Cerulea crossed with a Miltoniopsis. The Miltoniopsis are, the ones we call the pansy orchids. Big lip, usually fragrant, colors and pinks and whites and some yellows. Some have watercolors. Now, this particular one has one dose, I think as a grandparent of the Cerulea of Edwardii, which is a tiny little, we used to be on Oncidium, and look what it's done to the Miltoniopsis. It doesn't look at all like a Miltoniopsis, really. And I thought was Ivan's comment that it changes from yellow-brown to blue as something interesting, because I'm not sure where that would come from, because the Edwardii is pink, deep pink for polycolor. And your Miltonias, as I said, are mostly pinks. So I guess it's some sort of a change or a hybrid concoction that makes it do that kind of thing. Very interesting, and probably fragrant, I would hope, from that kind of a cross. Okay, this is Oncidium Heaven Sent, Redolence, Ruffles by Sherry Baby. So that's the next generation of Sherry Baby. You notice it's a much shorter stem and the flowers are closer together, which is what people want for the trade. But it still has that really nice chocolate scent. And of course, this is why Nick likes it. And this being Easter, it's very appropriate that we have one of these on the table. Dendrobium Alliance. Cuthbertsonii, Leslie grows these tremendously. Look at the leaves on these things. These plants will not take any salt in their water. Now, he says that he grows it cool. I've seen them grow not too, quite warm, and they do okay. But the medium can never break down. They need to be moist all the time, so it's really important to repot them when the medium starts breaking down. But you have to be very careful about repotting because they really don't like repotting. So growing these is a real talent, and Leslie does this very well. Dendrobium Lindsey with synonym Dendrobium aggregatum, who used to be called aggregatum. This is one that has to go through a very dark or a very dry, cool rest in the winter. And Michael says that during the winter, he gets water only every 3 weeks, and he only resumes watering after the stems get to 3 to 5 centimeters. That means you want to get the growth started before you start watering, because that's probably what happens in nature. But you can see that there's a lot of growths and a lot of flowers, very much like sunshine. Beautifully done. This is a Dendrobium nobile hybrid that Anna grew. Again, it summers outside, and then it spends the time in a cool room out of the way and under lights in the winter. Now, you see the flowers here are not really smooth, and that's because this is probably a tetraploid. So it has an extra set of chromosomes, and so the flower is thicker, probably lasts longer, but a very pretty thing, and probably will last 2 or 3 months anyways. This is another nobile hybrid that Sue Loftus grew, and she actually doesn't water for 2 to 3 months, and always produces these nice flowers. I love this one because it looks like it's made of porcelain, doesn't it? This is Fire Wings. This is an intergroup hybrid, a Phalaenopsis type with the Laturia type cross, and this one, as it gets bigger, will produce a big head of flowers. And again, these flowers last and last and last. I know that we have this have one of these, actually one that we got awarded, and it will. We used to take it to 3 and 4 shows in the spring because it would still be in flower from February right on into May. Another one of Sue's plants, Oriental Smile. We see this is quite popular, and you see a number of these around. But it's one of the nobile types that requires a rest in the winter, and then summers outside it gets lots of water and lots of growth. So these are long lasting. I believe that this one is also fragrant, but the colors are just fabulous in these. I like this photograph. It just goes that orchids can be artistic too. Look at the lines here. Isn't that pretty? And they flower. Again, it's one of the nobiles, so no water for 3 months and summers outside. And a lot of these nobiles are fragrant. And she actually says this one is definitely fragrant. Pearl ribbon, this actually what it looks like to me here. Snow coffee, another one of Sue's plants. Again, it would go through the rest period, and this is the time of year. Now, you don't start watering these just because they start to grow, because if you see some growth and you start watering too soon, those little nubs will turn into kikis, or the baby plants, rather than flowers. So you have to wait until you almost see little buds developing. Then you say, okay, now you can have water. Simbinde and Catacetinae. Well, we have privileged really to see something that we normally do not get to see anywhere in North America, but Michael Huang and Terry Kowalchuk have actually perfected to a certain amount the way of growing these. Michael tells us that these are almost impossible to grow because most of the information that you can get online is wrong. We have a number of these, and I'm sure that if you want to try them, Michael will be willing to share his knowledge with you. This is called Lost Tag. Well, obviously, it's a green form. Now, these are fragrant, but I have trouble smelling them, and I'm told that you have to train your nose to be able to smell them. You have to keep smelling them every day until your nose finally figures out that there is a scent coming from there. Now, there's a couple of these that we'll see along here that Michael says that they're this is a Japanese variety with daffodil-shaped petals. Now, I'm not exactly sure what that means. I assume it means that it has the look of the daffodil, has that cone in the center. So having these porrect petals that come and sort of hover over the lip makes it look a little bit like that cone. It's interesting that the color of the petals actually look more like leaves and like variegated leaves than flowers, but it's a very interesting thing. This is something that's really special, and I'm glad that we're getting to see them. This another Goringii, you can see that these are these are usually either Japanese or Chinese, and most of the Goringii seem to be Japanese, and they have different shaped flowers, and they're grown not for the flowers. And let me tell you, the process of getting these flowers to come is quite intricate, and someday we'll have to get Michael to tell us what this is all about. Now, this one is grown just by tars. I have been told in the past, because last year we had one of these at RBG that was actually awarded, and we were told that the reason that there's two people growing it is because Michael has the conditions for the winter, I think, and Tadas has the conditions for the winter, the summer that these plants need. So they spend half their life at one house, and then they move to the other house that has the right conditions. So this is a real accomplishment to have these growing. And okay, then but we do have some normal cymbidiums too. This is Elena's Cymbidium Eastern Wind. Sleeping Beauty with Eastern Star. This is these flowers are really thick, and as this plant gets bigger, it produces more of these. We've seen Wilson's plant with a lot more flowers on it, but this is a very pretty flower, very long lasting, and they're thick. They're extremely thick flowers. Now we get to the miscellaneous. This is interesting. This is Phalaenopsis Laurencianum, and you notice that she's actually growing it in a saucer of water. This particular, some of the cotyledons, while they're growing very, very fast, and they do require lots of water. And because this tends to be a big plant and needs a lot of water, a lot of people actually do grow it in a saucer when it's producing new growths and flowers. And Sinia is also growing this plant. And again, we're getting I think the color is probably a little more like the one we just saw. But this is one that she's grown. The flower looks even bigger than the other one, but they really are magnificent when they bloom. Now, from big, we grow to really little. One of Leslie's Lepanthes escaburiana, and you can see this is growing mounted, probably in one of his cool terrarium setups, but this is growing on live sphagnum. You can see the little flowering, the moss flowering here, and this is the way they grow in nature. That's why it's producing so many flowers, and it keeps flowering on the same stem. So yeah, it could be been flower for a very, very long time, if not all year round. This is one of my favorite Lycastes tricolor. It's one of the smaller growing one. Its pseudobulbs aren't nearly as big as some of the ones you see, but Yvonne says he's got 8 open flowers and 17 buds. Boy, it would be nice to see the whole thing, but with Lycastes, they don't last all that long. And so, by the time we got around to the May meeting, they probably will be finished. This is a really pretty, it's tricolor because it has the white, the green, and the pink. And it's just very, the flowers are not too big, but there are always lots of them, and they're just so pleasant to look at. I don't remember if it was fragrant or not. This is an accomplishment. I've tried doing peonies, but somehow I dry them out at the wrong time or don't get them growing at the right time, whatever. But Anna obviously has learned to grow them because she's got a whole basket of them. They are really, really pretty. If you were living out of Vancouver, you could probably grow them outside, and I think they do. But again, they need a dry winter period, cool. And then they grow, they flower, produce their leaves, and then you have to, grow a new suitable for the next year. Very, very pretty thing. Another one of Greg Warner's things, it's not just sips and frags that he grows. He also grows some of these pleurothalates. This Stelis serpipoides, well, maybe he's growing this because it looks like it has a pouch. He is a pouch man. But they, again, produce flowers on the same stem sequentially, so it can be in flower for 8 months a year. I love the little furry sepals and petals, and a beautiful picture too. Another Sologeny, this is a hybrid. This is actually one that we got awarded, and it's a good grower. So several people in the society have this one. This piece was grown by Anna Cogan. She summers it outside and winters it in the south window with lights. And Sinya has also been growing this one. It's a bit bigger plant, and this is the first time that she's had these flowers sequentially. But again, when they're really strong, you can get the flowers, 2 flowers open on the stem at the same time. And you'll notice that the lips are 2 very different colors. They open, I think they open lighter and then turn dark. Isn't that right? When it opens, they're kind of as the flower is opening, they're a reddish color, and as they mature, the lip gets really, really dark. And that's why the nighthawk, because it really looks, it's a bird in flight, and it's got this it's a blackness on there. But it's quite easy to grow and bloom, and always blooms at this time of year. Stanhopas, Stanhopa Goodwood, Gibbosa by Pseudoradiosa. This is one that Poots actually made the cross, trying to get longer-lived flowers on their Stanhopas, because of course you know that they really like them, and they do look like birds looking for prey. I think they look a little bit like pterodactyls. Okay, we do have some displays this time, which is great. Juliet put together some of Juliet and Albert put in a fair number of plants into the show table, but they still had others, so they just put them together in a little bit of a display, and it was really quite nice. So it just shows you the kind of things that are in bloom in their greenhouse at this time of year. This is an interesting display of Phalaenopsis, and if you remember, we talked about variety in a display, and here we have all Phalaenopsis, but we have a great deal of variety, because we have yellow phales, and we have cream color phales and pink phales, and a real dark red one. But now, think about this: we have 1, 2, 3, 4 plants that have very similar sort of pastel-y colors, and then we have one that is just super dark red and really, really striking. If we took this flower, put it in the center, and made these into a frame around it, wouldn't that be gorgeous? This is really pretty, but that would be really gorgeous. Thank you for putting them together into a display. Now we have some other displays that are the traditional Japanese Cymbidium displays. using the Cymbidium gringiais that we saw before. Now, Terry Kowalczyk, or Tadas Kowalczyk, did these. Now, those of you who have seen his displays know that at the back here, what we have is one of those beautiful Japanese screens. If you're going to send in a picture of a display, by sending in only part of it, we lose the big picture. What I would have liked to see is this taken from a little further back, so we can see these beautiful cymbidiums set against the gorgeous background. And it is the same thing here. Yes, this is a traditional Japanese cymbidium display, but when you see it on display, you see it from further back, and you see the whole of these plaques that goes underneath these the plants. You see the whole screen, and that's what gives you the whole feeling, that very Zen feeling of the traditional Japanese cymbidium display. So remember, when you're taking a picture of the display, make sure you get it all into the photograph. And of course, we have our plant of the month. Now, we talked about trick or treat. See, there's trick or treat and William Farrell. And this plant has 30 spikes, over 200 4-inch bright orange flowers and buds. And of course, this was grown by Wilson Ng. Now, Wilson, are you here? Can you tell us how you get it to have these this many flowers and stems and all open at the same time? Is Wilson in the audience? Can you unmute yourself and no Wilson? Wilson is shy. Anyways, very well done. This is a display all on its own, and look at how clean the foliage is. This plant has really gotten a lot of tender, loving care. Well done. We had I'm not sure how many. We had about 20 different people contributing flowers this month. Well done. Thank you for sharing your flowers. And thank you for this month's judge. Each time, this is quite a job, but I found that the judges really like the challenge of really seeing a whole bunch of really nice plants and being the person who gets to give out the ribbons. Thank you for bringing your plants or your flowers, and we want to see you again next year. Now, if you're really interested in judging, come to join us for the online education, learn to judge, and you learn how to recognize really good flowers and just be part of a really good group of people who know a lot about orchids. Now, we do have something called Orchid Chuckles, and we're looking for your funny orchid pictures, and hopefully we have, we'd like to get some more than what we're getting. But this month, what we have is one of Sue's orchid gnomes. So when Sue doesn't have to water her Dendrobium nobilis, she spends her time making gnomes, and this little orchid gnome is really, really cute and brings a smile to my face, and so appropriate in the yellow color for Easter. Growing areas. Now, we talked about this is Anna Kogan's south window that I guess she has lights above it to grow her plants. And you can see it's very simple. The plants are really happy. Each one has its own little pot, and the ones that require more light are closer to the window, and the ones with lower light are a little further back. And of course, the ones in flower gets to face her. Now remember that for the Summerfest, we're going to want to see your outside growing areas. The befores, like right after this meeting, you can go out and take a picture of where you're going to put your plants for the summer. And then once you put your plants out there, then you can take another picture. And this is what we want to see for the August meeting, because that way it helps other people to grow these things too. And so next meeting is, as we mentioned before, is with Sean Hillist, and he'll be telling us about the slipper cycle. You can still order plants until April the 15th. He will be sending plants to Toronto for our group. And he'll be sending them to me, and then I will contact those who purchase plants about getting them. And then also, is somebody trying to get my attention? Yes. You, in order to order plants from Sean, you go to his website, Garden Slippers, and you go through the catalog, and then you email him and just tell him that they're to be shipped with the Toronto order. You pay him. I don't do any of that. I will just distribute them once they get here. There'll be 2 shipments, actually. One will be going to Ottawa, and one will be coming to here to Toronto, to my place. And then we'll get together. And that should be right around the time of his talk. So if you have any questions, you can ask those. And he said he will be including instructions with the plants when he sends them. Are there any other questions about that order? No? Okay, good. Well, then I guess that's it for me.